They keep staring at your life like it's a puzzle missing half the pieces. They genuinely thought your rise depended on their presence, their support, their approval. But now, watching you climb higher than you ever did with them around, they're lost, confused, shaken, almost offended. They never imagined you'd become stronger the moment you let go of their dead weight. They whisper to themselves, "How are they doing this?" As if your growth were some forbidden magic. But it isn't magic, it's what happens when you stop giving your loyalty to people who drain you. You weren't waiting for their help. You were waiting for your freedom. And once you found it, your rise became inevitable. They scroll through your life from the shadows, trying to understand the glow you carry now. They expect to see cracks, scars, damage. Instead, they see peace, growth, expansion. And that's what confuses them the most, how you found more without them than you ever found with them. They thought removing themselves from your life would crush you. They thought their absence was your punishment, but now they see it became your liberation. The moment they left, your life became quieter, cleaner, lighter, and in that silence, you grew. They were waiting for your downfall, for proof that they were the glue holding you together. Instead, the only thing that fell apart was their illusion of importance. You didn't break without them, you bloomed. And they don't understand how that's even possible. They never realized how much strength you had stored beneath your gentleness. They misjudged your silence, mistook it for weakness, assumed you were dependent on them. Now that you've risen on your own, they can't help but question their entire role in your story. Turns out, they were never the foundation, just a passing chapter. They can't comprehend the peace you walk with now. You're calm, composed, glowing from within, and that unsettles them. They thought chaos would cling to you after they left. They thought you'd crumble. But the only thing that crumbled was their assumption of how much power they held. They refresh your life like it's a page they're desperate to understand. Every accomplishment, every smile, every silent victory is a slap to their pride. They don't understand how someone they tried to break could rise so effortlessly. They confuse your healing for arrogance, your progress for revenge, your happiness for provocation. They don't understand it's none of those, it's simply what happens when you stop watering dead gardens. You redirected your energy toward yourself, and suddenly everything around you transformed. They expected to return one day and find you stagnant, still hurting, still waiting, still shaped by the pain they caused. But instead, they found someone unrecognizable, someone stronger, sharper, wiser, someone they no longer have access to. Your rise challenges their ego. It forces them to confront the truth. They weren't as valuable to your life as they convinced themselves they were. You did not lose direction without them. You found clarity. And that clarity became the fire that carried you upward. They can't understand how you're smiling now, how you're glowing, how you're achieving things you never did while they were in your life. But the reason is simple: you stopped dimming your light to make them comfortable. And once you stopped, your world expanded in ways they never saw coming. They assumed you needed them for validation, but the moment you stopped seeking anyone's approval, your life elevated itself. They didn't expect your independence to be this powerful. They look at your success like it's a betrayal. They can't grasp that the only betrayal was theirs toward your trust, your loyalty, your kindness. You didn't rise to spite them. You rose because you finally realized you deserved more than what they offered. They thought you were fragile, someone who'd collapse if the wrong person left. But when you started rising after they left, the narrative flipped. Now they're the ones questioning themselves, wondering how they lost someone who clearly never needed them to begin with. They replay every moment where they underestimated you, every time they thought you wouldn't survive without their presence. But now they realize you didn't just survive, you evolved. You became the person you were meant to be all along, and your rise exposes their limitations. Your glow irritates the ones who expected to see you destroyed. Your resilience challenges the ones who prayed for your weakness. Your growth destabilizes the ones who built their ego on the illusion that you couldn't rise alone. Now, they have to face the truth. You rose because they left. They confuse your independence with coldness, your confidence with cruelty, your silence with pride. But what they fail to see is that rising without them wasn't a choice born of anger, it was a necessity born of self-respect. They keep wondering if someone replaced them, unaware that the only replacement you needed was a better version of yourself. They thought you'd cling to memories, but you clung to your future instead. And that decision changed everything. They're shocked that your life didn't pause after they exited, that it didn't collapse, that it didn't turn gray. Instead, it got louder, brighter, richer. You stopped surviving, you started living, and that living is what confuses them the most. Their ego expected you to shrink without them. Instead, you expanded. You built new opportunities, new paths, new identities. They expected you to need closure, validation, explanations. Instead, you needed none of it. Your growth became your answer. They thought their betrayal would leave you hollow, but you filled every empty space with strength, discipline, and self-worth. They don't understand how someone they tried to break now stands unshakable. Your rise exposes their mediocrity. It reveals how little they added, how much they took, how empty their contribution actually was. They're confused because they thought they mattered more. But rise after rise, you prove they didn't. They watch you now with a mix of regret and disbelief. They lost someone who didn't crumble, who didn't chase, who didn't beg. Someone who rose so high that they can no longer reach you, no matter how much they want to. And what confuses them the most is that you rose without looking back even once. You rose like they were never part of the story. And in a way, they never were. They watch you rise with a kind of irritation that looks almost like fear, because deep down they always assumed you were the fragile one, the one who'd fold, crumble, collapse without their validation. But now they're seeing something terrifying. You're stronger without them than you ever were with them, and they can't understand how that's even possible. They thought you needed their presence to feel grounded, but once they were gone, you learned that their presence wasn't grounding you, it was holding you down. Your rise is the clearest proof that they were the cage, not the wings, and that realization is eating them alive. They keep checking your life like they're waiting for a crack, a flaw, a weakness, something they can point at and say, see, they still need us. But that moment never comes. You just keep leveling up, quietly, consistently, effortlessly, and that quiet rise is louder than any revenge could ever be. They ask themselves privately, how did they do it? How are they still standing? How are they still smiling? They try to dissect your strength like it's some unsolved mystery. But the answer is simple. You finally prioritized yourself, and when you did, everything else fell into place. Your rise doesn't make sense to them because they thought they were irreplaceable. They assumed losing them would shatter you, but when you walked away, the only thing that shattered was their ego. You kept going, you kept winning, you kept growing, and that's the part they'll never understand. They see you becoming the person you were always meant to be, the version that couldn't breathe under their judgment, their manipulation, their inconsistency, the version that needed space, not permission. And now that you've become that version, they don't know how to deal with it. They're confused because you were never supposed to be this strong. Not after everything they did. Not after the betrayal, the disrespect, the disappointment. They expected the damage to slow you down. But the damage became your motivation. Your rise was built from the rubble they left behind. They thought your healing would be loud, messy, dramatic. But instead, it was silent, intentional, elegant. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You didn't fight to be understood. You just rose. And that silence is the part they can't decode, how someone can heal so beautifully without their apology. Your glow now bothers them more than your pain ever did, because your pain made them feel powerful, but your growth makes them feel small. They don't understand how you can radiate so much peace after everything they put you through. They thought the darkness they left you in would swallow you, but you turned it into fuel. You walked away without the weight they hoped you'd carry. No guilt, no regret, no second guessing. Just a calm, calculated smirk that told them everything they needed to know but were never ready to accept. That expression alone rewrote the entire history between you. It was the final punctuation to a story they thought they controlled. That smirk wasn't arrogance. It was liberation. It was the subtle message that you finally understood your worth, your power, and your role in the chaos they created. They thought you'd crumble, but instead you rose, and your rise tasted like vengeance dipped in elegance. They waited for an apology. They waited for desperation. They waited for closure crafted on their terms. But you gave them none of it. You left them standing in their own mess, forced to confront everything they tried to project onto you. You walked away clean, and they stayed dirty. That smirk cut deeper than any argument ever could. You didn't shout. You didn't explain. You didn't defend yourself. You simply turned your back with a softness that felt sharper than a knife, because nothing terrifies a guilty conscience more than the person they wronged walking away unbothered. They expected you to break, to crumble, to beg for what they were never capable of giving. Instead, you gave them a look that said, "I'm done here," and you meant it in the bones of your soul. That was the moment they realized they had underestimated the silence inside you. They never thought you'd reach a point where their opinions meant nothing. But you did, and in that instant, you became untouchable. That smirk was the final reminder that you weren't trapped anymore, you were free. And freedom looks terrifying to the ones who depended on your pain. Every step you took away from them forced them to replay every mistake they made. And that smirk, it lived in their mind like a shadow they couldn't shake. They saw confidence in it. They saw clarity. They saw a version of you they never bothered to know, a version that didn't need them. You didn't need dramatic exits or emotional theatrics. Your silence was the exit. Your composure was the performance. They realized too late that you weren't leaving out of hurt, you were leaving out of realization. Realization that you deserved more than the bare minimum they kept offering. Your smirk wasn't petty, it was poetic. It was the final proof that you had nothing left to say to someone who never listened. And the irony was cruel. They finally understood you right when your back was already turned. They couldn't understand how you walked away so easily, but it wasn't easy, it was earned. Earned through nights of overthinking, conversations with yourself, and silent battles they never saw. When you finally left, it wasn't impulsive. It was the cleanest decision you ever made. And that clean decision cut them messily. Because while you walked away with clarity, they were left behind with confusion. While you walked away with peace, they stayed with chaos. While you walked away with a smirk, they stayed with memories that suddenly felt heavier than ever. They're haunted by how effortless you seemed, how you didn't look back, how you didn't hesitate, how your body language screamed, "I'm too good for this," without uttering a word. That alone broke them more than any breakup or betrayal ever could. Your departure was the mirror they refused to look into. And now, every time they think of you, they remember that last look, the one that held no fear, no pain, no longing. Just calm detachment. Just cold confidence. Just a smirk that said, "You should have treated me better." You walked away like you were closing a chapter you'd already outgrown. And that scared them, because they were still stuck on pages you had memorized, analyzed, and abandoned long ago. They weren't ready for your evolution, but you were born for it. That smirk was revenge without violence, closure without conversation, justice without conflict. It was the purest form of self-respect wrapped in the quietest expression. And that's exactly why it shook them to their core. They expected you to leave pieces of yourself behind, the emotional version of you, the fragile version, the forgiving version. But you carried every version of yourself with you, and left only the memory of what they lost. And that memory now stings worse than any goodbye. Your indifference became their punishment. Your calmness became their consequence. Your walk away became the moment they realized the power balance had finally shifted in your favor without you having to lift a single finger. They replay that moment more than they'll ever admit. The way your eyes didn't soften, the way your shoulders didn't tense, the way your footsteps didn't pause. They realized you weren't walking away from them, you were walking toward yourself. They didn't just lose you. They lost the version of themselves they liked when they were around you. They lost the comfort of being forgiven. They lost the upper hand they thought they had. And all of that hit them only when they saw the way you smiled on your way out. That smirk has become a reminder of your strength, a reminder of their weakness, a reminder that they were a chapter, not the book, and that the story continues with or without them. They expected guilt. They expected remorse. They expected you to feel something heavy. But all they saw was someone who finally understood that walking away doesn't make you heartless, staying in the wrong place does. Your detachment wasn't cold, it was clarity. It was the silent recognition that sometimes the cleanest break is the one made without emotion. You didn't walk away angry, you walked away awake. And now, every time they think of you, the image remains frozen. You leaving, steady, unshaken, done. A soft smirk on your lips. The last thing they saw, the last thing they deserved, and the last thing they'll never forget. They keep wondering how you managed to walk away without the slightest tremor in your voice, without any hesitation in your steps. What they don't understand is that the moment you stopped expecting anything from them, you stopped needing anything from them. And when need dies, attachment follows. Your smirk wasn't rebellion, it was rebirth. They search for a flaw in your exit, a crack, a weakness, something to prove you weren't as unbothered as you appeared. But they find nothing, because there was nothing. Your silence wasn't emptiness, it was a verdict. And they know deep down, it was the only verdict they deserved. They have sleepless nights replaying everything they did that led to that moment. Every lie, every manipulation, every disrespect. They thought they got away with it all, right up until you walked away with that calm expression that told them they never had you to begin with. They only had access, and you revoked it. Your smirk became their punishment because it held the truth they avoided. You were never theirs to break. They thought they damaged you, but you were simply shedding the last pieces of who you were around them. Your transformation was their undoing, and that realization burns them more than any insult ever could. Your silence forced them to confront what they had been running from their own behavior. They can no longer blame you, because your exit was too clean, too graceful, too intentional. Their own guilt became the noise they can't shut off now, echoing louder than any explanation you could have given. They keep checking your life from a distance, hoping to find signs of collapse. But all they see is growth, expansion, peace. You didn't just walk away, you evolved. And evolution is the one thing they could never keep up with. Now they sit on the sidelines of a story they used to feel entitled to. What scares them the most is how little you care about what they think now. Your detachment is powerful, almost dangerous. It reminds them of what they took for granted, someone who once gave them unconditional loyalty, now offering them nothing but silence. And that silence is louder than revenge. Your confidence is unsettling to them. You carry yourself like someone who knows exactly what they survived, someone who knows their own value, someone who refuses to negotiate their worth. They never met this version of you before, and it terrifies them because they know they created it. The shift in your energy exposed every weakness in theirs. Suddenly their tricks, their games, their tactics don't work on you anymore. You can see through them without effort. That smirk you left with wasn't mockery, it was recognition. You finally recognize their patterns, and they know they've lost their power. They waited for the version of you who used to tolerate everything, forgive everything, and swallow every wound with a smile. They genuinely believed that the soft-hearted version of you would come walking back as if nothing ever happened. What they didn't realize is that the moment they broke your trust, something inside you evolved into a version they can never manipulate again. They expected the you who apologized first just to keep the peace. They expected the one who would bend, shrink, and suppress your own feelings so everyone else could be comfortable. But that version of you retired the day they mistook your patience for helplessness. Now peace is not something you beg for, it's something you guard with steel. They expected the you who waited for them, who held on even when they didn't deserve space in your life. But now, you don't wait for anyone. You don't cling to anyone. You learned that the only person who can save you is yourself, and that realization made them irrelevant in your evolution. They expected the you who explained yourself, defended yourself, and broke yourself just to be understood, but you stopped explaining the moment you understood them clearly, painfully, completely. Their intentions, their patterns, their motives, everything became obvious, and clarity killed your attachment. They expected the you who couldn't sleep without peace in the connection. Now you sleep fine. Now you rest better. Now you rest knowing the chaos is behind you, not beside you. They didn't expect that the one who used to memorize wounds would learn to forget people. They expected the version of you who was always available emotionally, mentally, physically. They forgot people grow, they forgot wounds harden, they forgot silence becomes armor. They forgot that once your heart learns its lesson, it never unlearns it. They expected the you who believed their excuses, the one who justified their actions just to protect your own heart. But that version died the day you realized you were protecting the wrong person. You don't buy empty words anymore. You only respond to consistent behavior. They expected the you who feared losing them. Instead, they lost the privilege of ever reaching you again. They suddenly realized the power they thought they had was borrowed, and you took it back without making a sound. They expected the you who would break at the slightest hint of distance, but distance became your oxygen. The farther away they drifted, the more you remembered who you really were before their chaos drowned you. And that remembrance revived you. They expected the you who reacted emotionally, crying, overthinking, begging for clarity. Instead, you responded with the coldest weapon, indifference. No anger, no tears, no questions. Just a door closed so gently it sounded like a lifetime ending. They expected the you who loved them more than yourself, but your priorities have rearranged. Now you look at your own reflection and realize that the person you needed to protect all along was staring back at you. They expected the version of you who feared endings, but endings became your liberation. Endings became your peace. Endings became the sole reason you could breathe again. They expected the you who forgot your worth every time someone gave you the bare minimum, but you grew out of that phase. You learned the difference between attention and respect, between affection and loyalty, and now you accept nothing less. They expected the you who would return simply because you cared once. But caring doesn't mean staying where you're hurt. You taught yourself that your heart is not a prison that keeps you trapped, it's a compass that leads you out. They expected the you who felt small, who doubted yourself, who questioned whether you were too much. Now you know you were never too much, they were simply too little. They expected the you who tolerated disrespect disguised as jokes, manipulation disguised as love, betrayal disguised as mistakes. That old version didn't know how to walk away. The new you doesn't even look back. They expected the you who crumbled under pressure. Instead, you became pressure. You became the calm storm that destroys without raising its voice. You became the kind of strength they never prepared themselves for. They expected the you who'd reopen old wounds just to feel something familiar. But you learned healing is not revisiting what hurt you, it's refusing to go back, even if the door is wide open. They expected the you who romanticized potential. Now you evaluate reality. You don't fall for fantasies anymore, you fall for consistency, effort, truth. They expected the you who believed people could change for you. But now you know people only change for themselves. And you stopped waiting for anyone to evolve while you remained stagnant. They expected the you who begged for closure. But the new you creates closure through silence, distance, and boundaries sharper than a blade. They expected the version of you who stayed loyal to the wrong people, the wrong promises, the wrong memories. But you upgraded your loyalty to yourself. They expected the you who was predictable, easy to read, easy to access. But now they can't decode you. Your silence confuses them. Your peace frightens them. Your growth humiliates them. They expected the version of you they once controlled. Instead, they are now haunted by the version of you they created. Calm, cold, clear, untouchable. They expected the old you, but that version is gone. And what stands in its place is someone they can never manipulate, never break, and never get back. They expected the old you who feared abandonment, the one who held on even when your hands were bleeding. But now they realize you weren't afraid of being alone, you were afraid of wasting your loyalty. Once you saw the truth, solitude became a sanctuary and not a punishment. And that shift is what terrifies them the most. They expected the you who would come running back the moment they snapped their fingers. But you didn't run, you rested. You didn't chase, you rebuilt. You didn't plead, you disappeared into your own growth. They never imagined you would choose yourself with such brutal finality. They expected the you who kept giving chance after chance, even when they didn't deserve the first one. But your patience was not infinite, it was a gift, and they burned through it like it was replaceable. Now they stand with empty hands, unable to comprehend how someone they underestimated learned to outgrow them so quietly. They expected a wounded version of you, crying, shaking, seeking closure. But instead, you became composed, unbothered, emotionally impenetrable. Your healing wasn't loud, it was strategic. It was a slow, silent shedding of everything that once blurred your vision. They expected the you who needed validation, but you stopped looking for mirrors in other people. You learned to validate yourself, to love yourself, to stand without support. And once you stood alone, their absence became irrelevant. They expected the you who forgave instantly, forgetting every crime just to keep peace. But even angels get tired. Even saints get fed up. Even the kindest hearts hit a breaking point. And when yours did, it didn't explode, it froze. It froze them out forever. They expected the you who confused love with sacrifice, who gave everything without receiving anything real. But now you know love is not martyrdom. It is not depletion. It is not self-destruction. And you refuse to trade your soul for the comfort of someone else's ego. They expected the you who listened to their justifications, their blame shifting, their emotional gymnastics. But the new you can hear a lie even when it whispers. You don't argue anymore, you observe, you accept, you detach. They expected the you who stayed small just to make others feel big, but now you stand tall. And standing tall does not require apologies. It requires truth. It requires boundaries. It requires letting go of people who were never meant to walk beside the upgraded version of you. They expected the you who needed them, but you didn't. You only needed clarity, clarity they accidentally gave you through their betrayal. Their deceit didn't destroy you, it disinfected your life. They expected the you who reopened old doors out of nostalgia, but you learned nostalgia is a liar. The mind romanticizes what the heart survived. So you locked the door, sealed it shut, and walked away without leaving a forwarding address. They expected the you who cared about what they thought, but their opinions have lost all power. The same mouths that once shaped your insecurities now speak behind your back out of jealousy. And you don't even hear them anymore, you're too far ahead. They expected the you who lived in the past. But you burned that chapter. You didn't bookmark it. You didn't annotate it. You didn't frame it. You simply ended it. And the ending was so clean, so final, that even they felt the chill. They expected the old you simply because they believed they owned that version. They didn't. They never did. You were simply choosing them. And the moment you stopped choosing them, their power dissolved like smoke. They expected the version of you they once manipulated, underestimated, and misunderstood. But all that remains now is the version of you born from truth, pain, clarity, and rebirth. A version they cannot approach, cannot influence, cannot touch. The old you is gone. The new you is untouchable. And that is the ending they never saw coming. They expected you to explode, scream, cry, demand apologies, and throw words like broken glass across the room. They wanted the drama. They wanted the emotional meltdown. They wanted proof that they still mattered enough to shake you, but you gave them something far more dangerous: indifference. They hate that you're not raging, not arguing, not trying to prove your side. They were prepared for a battle and found no opponent. Your silence turned the war into a funeral, and they're the only ones mourning something that you already buried long ago. They don't understand how someone who once cared so deeply could switch off the light and walk out of the room without hesitation. They don't understand that caring has a limit, and they pushed you right past it. Now they're standing on the ashes of something they started, wondering how you managed to walk away without getting burned. They hate that you're not angry because anger would mean you still feel something. Anger is still involvement. Anger still means the heart is engaged. But you're beyond that stage. You're not fighting. You're finished. And finished is a power they never expected you to have. They were ready with manipulations, excuses, half-truths, and sweetened lies. They thought they could reel you back in with guilt or guilt-shaming. But you didn't argue or stay to negotiate. You nodded, understood, and left. That terrified them more than any confrontation ever could. They hate that you figured them out. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like someone closing a book that they had already finished reading. You noticed the patterns. You measured their actions. You connected the dots. And once the truth was complete, you chose peace over participation. They never expected you to choose the exit. They thought you would stay out of habit, familiarity, fear, attachment, or emotional loyalty. But you changed roles from someone who tried to save the relationship to someone who realized they were saving themselves instead. Now they're the ones trying to catch up with the reality they created. They hate that you didn't wait for apologies. Apologies would mean closure, and closure would give them a sense of control. But you didn't need closure, you gave it to yourself. When someone no longer needs answers, the person withholding them loses all power. They can't accept that you don't care enough to be angry. That's the blow they never saw coming. They thought they injured the heart, not realizing they only exposed its strength. People become done only after they've spent every last attempt trying to make something work. They hate that they don't get to witness your breakdown, that there is no emotional performance for them to enjoy. No weakness left to exploit, no openings to re-enter. You didn't collapse, you shut the door, and the chapter and the entire story. And what's scarier is that you did it without a single word. They're replaying every mistake in their head, trying to figure out where you finally checked out. Was it the lie? The disrespect? The silence? They don't know because your final straw happened quietly. They didn't see the switch flip. They only saw the aftermath once the light went out. They hate that your silence is your revenge, not the dramatic kind, the permanent kind. Silence is the Joker's sharpest weapon, and you wielded it perfectly. Because silence forces a person to sit alone with themselves, and they don't like the reflection that stares back. They hate that you didn't need closure from them because you learned the most important lesson. Closure doesn't come from someone who broke you. It comes from the strength to walk away without needing them to understand why. They hate that you stopped explaining yourself. People only explain when they think someone is capable of understanding. They realize too late that you no longer cared whether they understood or not. Explanation is investment, and you made your last deposit. They hate that your absence is louder than your presence ever was. When you were there, they took your voice for granted. Now that you're gone, your silence echoes in every corner of their life. The absence hurts more than any argument ever would. They hate that you didn't curse their name, poison their reputation, or go around telling people what happened. You just left, clean, calm, controlled. And now they must carry the weight alone because the villain they tried to paint you has never showed up. They hate that you healed. People comfortable with your pain feel threatened by your recovery. The moment you stopped bleeding, their sense of superiority evaporated. Healing took away their leverage. Peace rewrote your story without needing them in it. They hate that your life didn't fall apart. In fact, it got better. New peace, new confidence, new clarity. Betrayal didn't destroy you, it transformed you. And watching you evolve without them is the punishment life gave them on your behalf. They hate that they now understand how replaceable they were. Not because you told them, but because you moved on without hesitation. Replacement isn't finding someone new. Replacement is learning you never needed them in the first place. They hate that they are stuck in the moment you left, while you've already entered a new chapter. They are frozen in regret. You are flowing with purpose. They are rewatching the past. You are writing the next page. And that difference hurts. They hate that you're not trying to make them regret losing you because you don't care if they do. Your life stopped revolving around their reaction. And nothing scares a manipulator more than losing emotional influence over the person they once controlled. They hate that they lost access to you, to your heart, your presence, your loyalty, your magic. They didn't lose just a person, they lost the version of you that would have done anything for them. And that version is dead, buried, and not coming back. They hate that your goodbye wasn't a scene, it was a decision. A calm, quiet, irreversible choice. Nothing is scarier than someone who leaves with peace. Because peace means certainty, and certainty means you're not coming back. They hate that being done gives you more power than being angry ever could. Anger burns out. Being done doesn't. Anger fades. Being done lives forever. And now they must face the truth the hard way. The story is over and you're the one who turned the final page. And the cruel, poetic irony is this. They wanted a reaction to feel important. But by giving them nothing, you finally showed them their true value in your life. They hate that you didn't fight for the connection because it meant you realized something they never wanted you to see, that the relationship was already dying long before you left. And once a person finally sees what's true, pretending becomes impossible. You didn't abandon them. You just stopped lying to yourself. They hate that you no longer react to their presence. No tension, no emotional spike, no anger, no sadness. Just neutrality. Indifference is terrifying because it means the heart has healed. And when the heart heals, the past loses its power. They never expected to become just another chapter, but here they are, collecting dust. They hate that they can't guilt trip you anymore. Guilt used to bend you. Shame used to silence you. Emotional pressure used to pull you back. But now those tricks bounce off you like bullets against steel. They lost their ability to move you, and that loss is something their ego can't swallow. They hate that you don't even want revenge. Revenge would still mean they live rent-free in your head. But you chose something much colder. You outgrew the battlefield entirely. Nothing crushes a person more than realizing they are no longer important enough to even hate. They hate the way you smile because they know they didn't put that smile there. Someone else did. Something else did. Your peace did. And that smile reminds them that they no longer have the emotional control they used to masterfully enjoy. They hate that you don't explain your silence. They want answers. They want closure. They want dialogue. But you learn the most dangerous truth of all: silence is closure. Silence is explanation. Silence is a sentence passed without a trial, and they never saw it coming. They hate that the version of you they knew no longer exists. You shed your skin, your patterns, your emotional reflexes. You upgraded into someone who doesn't run toward the fire, someone who walks away from the building before it collapses. Growth is your revenge, and it burns. They hate that they don't know what you're thinking anymore. You used to be easy to read, emotional, expressive, available. Now your emotions are a locked vault, and your thoughts are private property. They don't know what's happening in your world, and the unknown shakes their security. They hate that people still admire you, despite everything they did to tear you down, despite the lies, despite the disrespect. You ended up earning respect they didn't see coming. It proves that your character was stronger than their injustice, and that realization is a knife in their pride. They hate that losing you wasn't mutual. You didn't lose anything when you walked away, you gained yourself. But they lost a person who truly cared for them, and they are now forced to live with the reality that their choices cost them someone who never planned to replace them easily. They hate that you don't care who they talk to, what they post, who they date, or what they do. Indifference is worse than jealousy. Indifference means emotional death, and watching you move on without emotional turbulence feels like a verdict they can't overturn.